My God, right, okay. Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and we've got a full house. We've got Liam Carrigan in Japan, Ian Conroy in New Zealand, and Lawrence Conley all the way from the Skylark Bar. Before we go any further, we've got to wish the big man, Lawrence, bottom right, a big happy birthday. 51 today, Lawrence, and looking well for it. Looking well for it, young man.
Thanks. Jock Stein was manager when I was born, mate.
What date? Cup. What's the date of your birth? Give me it.
30th of May, 1974.
Right, and just before we came on, I said to you, do you know who Celtic were playing on that very day? And you said no.
No, I wasn't at the game, mate.
I'm disappointed you weren't at the game, Lawrence. I mean, you call yourself a Celtic fan. Listen, Bobby Charlton played for Celtic that day. There you go.
And the hoops.
That was the day.
The first
World Cup day.
Went up to wear the hoops, wasn't he?
There you go. And he scored for Celtic as well. Can you remember who we were playing? I know you weren't at the game, but you might have watched it on catch-up.
No, can't remember.
Liverpool.
Who's testimonial then?
Ron Yates.
Ron Yates' testimonial.
4-1 Celtic. Right, the other goal scorers that day. Let us know in the comment section, were you at that game down in Liverpool, where it was Liverpool 1, Celtic 4? It was the 13th of May, 1974. And we're going to make you feel old, because that was the day that Lawrence Conley was born. The Celtic side lined up as follows. Dennis Conaghan in goals, Jackie McNamara, Jim Brogan, Stevie Murray, Billy McNeil, Pat McCluskey, Harry Hood, Vic Davidson, Bobby Charlton, Tommy Callaghan, and Bobby Lennox. The goals were scored by Charlton, Davidson, Lennox, and Harry Hood. 28,170 attended the game. And it was kind of famous, Lawrence, because of that Bobby Charlton appearance, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably just wanted to get in the same team as Bobby Lennox, mate. You know,
he loved Bobby, didn't he?
A big admirer, wasn't he?
He loved Bobby, didn't he? And I remember him in the centenary video going on about Bobby Lennox. That's the kind of guy you'd want in your team. So there we go. Ian, I don't know, were you kicking about in 1974? I don't think you were. I don't think you're old enough. I don't think you've hit 50 yet. Am I right?
No, I was born in 76, so a couple of years behind you. November 76.
Years. All right. Well, the time will come where we're talking about who we played in and around that date. And obviously we'll go a lot younger when we come to Liam, the youngest of the quartet, dialing in all the way from Japan. I want to ask you straight off the bat, Liam, what you've been writing about today on the Celtic blog on Acsom.
Right, well, we've had 2 stories up today so far, another one coming up shortly after I finish doing this. First of all, talking about the this whole mess with the title party on Saturday, and whether it's, is it just incompetence, or is there something more sinister at play with the council? Because I cannot believe that even they would be that stupid to schedule an Orange Walk and a Celtics party on the same day. So there is that. There's also, I'm talking about the potential goalkeeper dilemma for the cup final, because Big Casper's back. I would have thought Sinisalo would have been a shoe-in, but now, Casper is our number 1 keeper, but you've got to say it's a bit of a sore one for Sinisalo if he doesn't get to play in the cup final, having been part of the team that got us there. So,
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Then later tonight, I do have a wee, let's see, a wee laugh at the Daily Record incoming in their latest absolute fantasy story that they've got coming out of Ibrox.
I get the feeling that you don't really buy in to what you're reading at the moment in the Scottish mainstream media, Liam. I just get that vibe from reading your blog.
Yeah, it's I think half the lies they tell aren't true, as my dad would say.
Well, if you're struggling, rattling about for a 4th blog today, there you have it. Bobby Charlton lined up in the hoops 51 years ago today, the day that the infamous, I'm not quite sure, Lawrence Conley entered this wee rock hurtling through infinite space. There we go. Right, Schmeichel or Sinisalo straight off the bat. That's the first question we're going to ask, and I'm going to come to you first. The birthday boy, Lawrence Conley. Surprised that Schmeichel came back in? Surprised that Sinisalo will play tomorrow night? And who plays in the cup final for you?
Yeah, surprised Schmeichel come back in. I thought Sinisalo's been great since he came in. I thought he deserved to keep a hold of the jersey. Hopefully plays the cup final. I honestly thought the performances he's been putting in, he had a good performance over at Poundland. He'd done nothing nothing wrong since he's come into the team. I thought Brendan would have kept him in. But for me, yeah, happy to see him back in tonight. Be happy to see him in the cup final. I think he's the future. You know, not Casper for another year, but we need to develop him, don't we? I don't know what we'll do for his confidence kind of dropping out, not having made a mistake. And he speaks well. You know, he gave us the lowdown on exactly what he was pelted with. But yet again, it's left to our players or our managers to comment on that.
Well, this is the thing. That's another discussion that we're going to have. Vapes, lighters, bottles, and apparently mugs. Who takes a mug to the football? Who takes a mug to the football? Does that happen in New Zealand? Ian, it's a new thing to me. I think he might have meant cups. I've seen loads of them kind of being showered on him.
No, mate, there's none of them at Ibrox.
Well, there is that. No, the best pitch of the year. Don't forget the important one, Lawrence. Best pitch of the year. The groundsman
the only thing they got right, and it's green.
Exactly. Yes. I can feel a few indirect digs coming in for Lawrence already this morning. Ian, we're talking Schmeichel or Sinisalo. It's something that Liam has written about earlier on today. I was pretty surprised that Schmeichel came back in, but what he did show is what he's there for. He made a tremendous save in 18 minutes when Boyle could have increased the score for Hibs at that point. Brilliant save. Sinisalo apparently will come back in for Wednesday night, but where does that leave us for the cup final for you, Ian?
I agree with you, Lawrence. That it's a shame that he's played so well. He's not. There's been no clangers per se. There's been he's been pretty steady and a safe pair of hands, which is good for us Celtic fans because obviously he's part of the succession plan, coming in to sort of take over the gloves from Casper. But then obviously when Casper did that kind of sort of telling the save, and that was kind of his signature, same as his dad, that kind of star, making himself big. Again, it's only good for Sinisalo that he's got him as a teacher. The one thing I suppose I will say though is that Casper, he hasn't got sort of many more opportunities left. So if he does make the cup final, then Sinisalo can sort of give himself comfort that he's going to be in there for the next 10, hopefully. If that's providing that we actually get to keep him because I think he probably might be end up sort of being more sort of a potential sale with the potential he's got. I wouldn't mind either way who was in goal, but I think it'll be Casper, and just for the basic fact that he is the sort of the established number one, and Sinisalo probably wouldn't have got these opportunities if Casper wasn't injured. So I suppose let's look at the sort of the glass half full side of things, that he's been blooded in a little bit sooner than we possibly might have originally sort of planned to, but it's gone well.
Well, we spoke about this yesterday, and I had taken Brendan's words in the respect of Sinisalo being loaned out next season to get more game time. There's obviously been the rumours around Ross Doohan coming back to Celtic from Aberdeen, which I think would end the career of Benzo, and we'll have a tribute show on the day that happens, and a massive tribute blog as well from Liam if Benzo leaves the building, right? But I took it that Sinisalo would be loaned out, Liam. Kevin took it the other way. He thought the plan was to loan him out, but now that we've seen him in action and we see that he's ready, we're maybe not going to do that. How did you take Brendan's words when he was talking about Sinisalo's future?
I don't think he's getting loaned out, because I think you can see clearly when he's come in, you can see the benefit of working alongside Kasper Schmeichel every day in training. He's picked up so many of his mannerisms, the way he marshals the defence, his distribution, moving the ball out quickly for the back. It's all stuff that, if you look back at how Sinisalo played before he came to Celtic, that is all stuff that he's added to his game since he started working with Kasper Schmeichel. So I think having him there is better for his long-term development rather than putting him out on loan somewhere.
And then is Ross Doohan basically that third choice who never gets a sniff at a game? I mean, that's a tough sell, is it not, Liam?
Aye, but at the end of the day, if he's happy to take that, I mean, Scott Bain's been happy to take it. Every big club needs that goalkeeper who's just going to be there for an emergency. Who who was it? Who's the one at Man City? Is it Scott Carson? He's been there like 5 years. And he's only played like 2 games or something.
Is John Burridge still available? Remember Budgie? He was the guy that was always the perennial third choice.
He was in goals at the first Celtic League game I ever went to. We lost 2-1 to Hibs, and he had the game of his life. I think he was only about 44 at the time.
The thing is, Liam, it was kind of before his time. He was looking into like training regimes and diets and fasting and all these kind of things that, people thought he was a wee bit mad, a wee bit crazy. The clown prince of soccer and all that kind of stuff. But he played right into his 40s. And as I say, he's probably still playing somewhere. But yeah, I think that third choice goalie for me, Liam, needs to be a young guy coming through. It needs to be someone who's not really expecting much game time, but he is learning from the more experienced keepers. But it would appear once again that we don't have someone of that quality to step up, Liam. That's a bit of a concern and a reoccurring theme.
It would suggest that your man Oberlewemi might be staying at Dunfermline permanently, I would think.
Aye, yeah. Aye, it does look as though, he would be moving out if we indeed would bring Duhan in. Let us know in the comment section. First discussion point today, Schmeichel or Sinisalo. We know that Sinisalo is going to get game time before the end of the season, but who do you pick for the Scottish Cup final? Kasper Schmeichel is a massive, huge presence in that goal. As Ian said, it was, throwing back memories of Peter Schmeichel when he made that save. And our very own Arthur Boric was pretty good at that as well, wasn't he? Remember that? He used to just spread himself. Man United game in Europe, the best example of it. Now, as well as it being 51 years since the great Lawrence Conley entered this world, I seen yesterday the foundation were doing a 30th anniversary badge for the Huddle. Now, the Huddle, if you check the date, it was actually the 23rd of July 1995, the first time we did it. Anyone on the Acsom panel tell me who were the opponents the first time Celtic did the Huddle? Give you a clue. It was a friendly. It was a friendly game. Anybody got a clue?
No.
Bayern Munich?
It wasn't Bayern Munich. I'm going to actually have a look in the comment section. Is anybody out there aware of who we played? Big shout out to Quinny. There we go.
Brazilian team played Blackburn, didn't we? And we played the Brazilian team in a friendly as well.
You're thinking of Flamenco, aren't you? Remember?
Flamenco.
Yeah, we played them. That wasn't them. It wasn't Newcastle. It wasn't Everton. There you go. I'm just going to let that run. Someone will eventually check the wiki.
We had a friendly against Blackburn as well, didn't we? But was that an evening game?
We did. I remember that because Blackburn wore their black and red away kit. And I think we beat them 1-0. Willie Faulkner. No, Andy Walker scored. Or Willie Faulkner?
Willie Faulkner. I was at the game.
Aye. A German team. There you go. We're getting close. Blah Boy says, a German team. Come on. Get yourself into that Celtic wiki because I've already been in there, obviously, so I can sit here with the answer. It wasn't St. Pauli. That's a good shout, actually, because we did play them on the German tour. There we go. Kaiser, it was Kickers, Emden, that European powerhouse. And in actual fact, they beat us 2-0 that day. They beat us 2-0. Now, the Huddle, we know the story of the Huddle and whose idea it was, Tony Mowbray. But I think the actual team needs to be celebrated, right? So here's the team that lined up for Celtic on the day we did the Huddle for the first time. Pat Bonner in goals. Lee Martin, ladies and gentlemen, you'll remember him scoring the winning goal in the 1990 FA Cup final for Man United. Tosh McKinley, Malky Mackay, Tony Mowbray, Peter Grant, Brian McLaughlin, Rudy Vata, Pierre Van Hooijdonk, Andy Walker, and John Collins. The substitutes that day, Willie Faulkner, Gordon Marshall, Simon Donnelly, Mark McNally, and the dearly departed Stuart Gray. So there you go. 30 years since then. We've got them all still available to chat about it, other than Stuart Gray, unfortunately. Did you see Eddie Gray, the interview that he did, and he was talking about Celtic? Did you see that, Ian? Brilliant.
Yeah, I saw it, yeah.
Fantastic. He's just walking about. Did they still call it Elland Road, didn't it, Leeds? I hope so.
I believe so, yeah.
They're just walking around Elland Road, and the subject of Celtic come up. And he was basically saying how much he loved Celtic. Castle Milk Boy, Sean Fallon did approach him to sign for Celtic. He knocked us back for Leeds United. And then eventually, Lawrence, was managed by Jock Stein at Leeds United when Jock went down there for 40 days. So check it out. I think I've seen it on Andy Hutch's Twitter page. A great wee clip. It looks as though it's getting done for maybe Leeds United TV or something, but he talks really, really well about Celtic, big Celtic fan. But he names all the Scots that went down back in the day for that great Leeds period, you know. You've got the Gray brothers, of course. You've got wee Billy Bremner. You've got, who else? Joe Jordan was down there, wasn't he?
Jim
Great
McCallum.
Scottish-
Jim McCallum brought Celtic back. Leeds approached him first and he agreed, and then Celtic went up to his door in the Gorbals, but they'd already shook hands with Leeds.
Big Celtic fan. Still goes to the games as well, Jim. So that's a big first question of today. How old was Lawrence Conley? And I've let the cat out of the bag on that one. We're talking about 3 games, and you know, you win one of them, and that's the final one, and you write your name into the folklore of Celtic Football Club. It's time for heroes. That's the way that we're looking at it. And if you think about it, we've got a dress rehearsal, we've got trophy day, and then we've got the Scottish Cup final. I'm going to ask you, Liam, about the weekend, the game against Hibs. What did we learn? Did we learn anything about that particular lineup that might bode us well in the next 3 games?
I think we just we learned that we need to just maybe calm down a wee bit, you know, because I think there was a lot of people at half time were not too happy with the performance, but by the end of the game, I think we realised that we were never really in trouble. And got to give big Adam Idah a break, right? I mean, he's working really hard. Yes, he missed a couple of chances again, but he's, you know, he got a goal, had a hand in the first goal as well. I really think that he's, you know, his record is good, and I hope that we can all just learn to be a wee bit more patient with him.
Well, let's have a look at his record then, because I'm the same as yourself. By the way, in the first half, I think he had a frustrating first half, Liam. You know, you're looking at some of the chances, some of the offsides, and you're thinking he's got to do better there. But I was looking at Big Idah. He misses chances, but you know he's going to score 19 goals this season. A goal or an assist every 111 minutes. Is that good? Is that bad? I was looking at last season, and it was much better last season. But I think he was an impact sub last season, Liam. I think that's the big thing. And the thing that he's had to learn is to become Celtic's #1 striker. You know, the consistency that's required in that. You look at that game against Hibs, it could have been 2 or 3 goals to the good in that one game. After the match, though, I noticed Ian, Brendan Rodgers chalking him up, right, really bigging him up after the game. Is that classic Brendan man management?
I think it is, and I think obviously Brendan brought him to the club. I'd never heard of him, to be honest. But I like him. I say this every week or whenever I'm asked about Adam Idah. I think there's still more to come from him, and I hope there's somebody spending time with him. You know, the way that Kewell sort of spent time with Maeda. I think that's what his game's sort of maybe lacking, is that kind of that specialised. You know, that just finishing drills, just continually keep doing it. But let's be fair to the guy as well. I saw the stats on Sports Scene analysis about his conversion percentage versus the other strikers, and that's all good and well. Again, you know, we all know the thing about stats and things like that, and it's it kind of distorts the eye test, which is, you know, he needs. I think especially with a striker, you need to get into a rhythm. You need to be in the team consistently, be trusted. I think when you're coming in, coming out, and having to come and sort of make an impression with a portion of a game rather than sort of playing the full game and things like that, it doesn't help. So I firmly believe that if he was trusted and was first pick, you know, say for example, you know, there were injuries to Kyogo before he left, and he got a big long run the team, I think he would be much further forward. But I just think he's been sort of hamstrung by the fact that he's not been an automatic choice. But you know, he had that ball, that wonderful ball that oh my goodness, who put him through? Tati put him through, sorry, in the first half, and he had the shot. It showed his power and pace, and obviously it was he buried his chance when it came for the goal. So I like him a lot, and I think Brendan Rodgers is right to big him up. Whether he's a confidence player, I don't really know. He seems quite a confident guy, and I liked as well when Kuhn was kind of picking on the big centre half, or the big centre half was picking on him. He jumped in and defended his mate and got in between instinctively. You know, so that shows the mettle of the guy as well. That he's a good teammate. You know, it looked like Kuhn was being a wee bit nippy. Sort of picking on someone twice his size almost, but it was good to see the big man step in and and defend the honour of his teammate. So I think more to come. As I say, I hope he gets a run of games, and he'll start doing the business. I've no doubt.
You know, the two of them actually, Ian. I think the fact that Kuhn didn't mind mixing it with somebody twice his size was brilliant. I love that, and also, as you say, you're looking for backup because McAvenny didn't get any backup when he battered Woods that day, did he? He was looking around for all his teammates that were all hiding. That's what he was telling me anyway. But yeah, you're looking for your teammates to back you up. And Big Idah, you know, he's got the physicality, you know. And I think that for a few games after, he went out for a few jars, which, you know, he was absolutely pilloried for. Because that's social media, you know, that's the toxicity of social media. I think he was trying a wee bit too hard, to be honest with you. And last week we were talking about what type of player is Adam Idah. Lawrence, I'm going to throw this one over to you because it was myself, Alan Morrison and Kevin Graham. And we kind of came to the conclusion that he should maybe just realise he's a penalty box player, something a wee bit like Giakoumakis, and that we don't really want you to do the build-up work. We didn't really want you to work the channels. Just be in between the two goalposts for when the ball comes in, because when that happens, and it's instinctive, because I don't think he's great on one-on-ones, by the way. I don't know even if you can teach that. But when it's instinctive, he puts the ball in the net, Lawrence. And I think that's the type of player he is. He's a penalty box player, old school.
I mean, what was it, 3 goals, 10 games in Europe? I think, he ran the channels well there. He held the ball up for us. Well, and it's split, supposed, against the other best teams in Scotland. He's got 4 goals in 3 games. What more do we want for the guy? You know, he's a striker that's developing and he's scoring at a good rate just now.
24?
Yep. You know, I think boys are right. He needs a run of games, and he's getting that, and he's got 4 goals in 3 games against supposedly the better standard opposition. He scores in the big games. You don't think it's been a cracking signing for us? You know, if the media want to make up, you know, some kind of agenda that he's not doing well and he could do better, listen, all strikers miss chances. But he's scoring at a good rate for us. So, yeah, I think he's a great player for us. And I disagree. I think he can run the channels, and I think he can hold it up. He's done it in Europe. But, yeah, he does seem to be better. He's struggled with some of his one-on-ones. Sometimes the keeper's done well. But, yeah, you've got to take a guy that's scoring at the rate he's scoring at just now. Now he's got to run 4 goals in 3 games. That's brilliant return for a striker.
Well, he's going to score 20 plus this season, Lawrence, and that's for me, that's a decent return. You know, you've got other players in the team because Rodgers likes to spread the goals out. You've got Kuhn on 21. You've got other players in the team who are contributing as well. And I think it's important to note that for the best part of the season, he was second choice. You've got Maida on 34, Kuhn on 21, Idah on 19. That's what Brendan likes in his team, isn't it, Lawrence? He likes to spread the goals around. Yeah.
There's only one guy I'm worried about scoring is Jamesy. You know, he's running out of games. We need that goal for Jamesy this season. Hopefully it's a win in the cup final. But, yeah, we need to get Jamesy a goal.
Yeah, well, Paddy asked the important question, is it going to be the right or the left bum cheek that he scores with? It won't matter to him. It could be one of the goals where it just hits off him and goes in, and everybody will be delighted for him. It has to happen. It absolutely has to happen. I mean, who do we think we are? We're just choosing goal scorers now. You know what I mean? It's like one of the things, as long as we win the game, it shouldn't really matter who scores the goals, right? There's loads of good comments coming in. What do you make of Schmeichel or Sinisalo? Adam Idah's got to start the final, isn't he? You would think. But does he start tomorrow night in the dress rehearsal? Let's know what you think on the comments section. I'm going to bring in the first comment of today, and it's David Boyle who says, hope that Kenny gets a start tomorrow. He has the attributes and needs a chance. Right, okay. Let's open this up to Liam, first of all. What I've liked about Johnny Kenny, 7 appearances he's made, 21 years of age. I'd written him off, if I'm being honest. When he went back to Ireland, I thought, right, the boy's not settled. It's so tough for a kid to come over from Ireland and settle down. Spoke to Pat Bonner about it at the end of last year. And he spoke about, You know, there was moments in his early days at Celtic where he just wanted to go home. He would just lie there in his bed looking at the ceiling thinking, what have I done? You know, homesick. And we don't take that into account, Liam. We just think these guys are robots, you know, they're commodities, they're assets, and why is he not playing well? Well, I think, you know, the substitute appearances that he's made so far, I probably would agree with David. I wouldn't mind seeing Johnny Kenny getting a start, you know, and basically saying to him, you've got 65 minutes here. You know, don't panic. Just, you know, get into your rhythm. I think I've been impressed with his speed mainly and his upper body strength, but we've not really seen much of him, Liam. Give him a start tomorrow night, do you think?
I don't know we give him a start, but definitely give him some game time. I think he needs to show more of an opportunity to show what he can do. You know, that's the thing. It's like we look at Dyson as the main striker. We look at Idah as the secondary choice there. And then Kenny would be the third. And he's not going to displace either of the two guys above him anytime soon, unfortunately. But hopefully he can get a good, you know, what you want ideally is for us to be 2 or 3 up early on tomorrow. And then we can bring him on and give him a full 45 minutes or something. Because, you know, as a couple of guys are saying in the comments, 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there is not enough to show what you can do. So he needs hopefully a good 45 minutes to really get a feel for what type of player he is.
The thing for me with that is I totally agree, because I think strikers, they don't play an instinct, they panic a wee bit, that, you know, they're too keen to impress. What I've liked about him, Ian, is he's not scared to put a defender on his backside either. He's done it twice at Ibrox and he's done it again at the weekend. So he likes to put it out. But I think physically he's improved, he's developed. As I say, upper body strength, 21 years of age. I know he didn't come through the ranks, but how do we give him the chance, Ian? Do we do what Liam says? We wait until maybe the second half where we're in a good rhythm and we bring him on then? Or would you start him? Would you throw him in?
Well, that's the thing. Also, if we throw him in, it kind of goes against what I was saying about Idah, because I think Idah's in a kind of a similar position. In fact, that he needs a run of games and to be the main man. And I think even getting to 45 minutes, you know, it's almost like, you know, they're all kind of sort of dead rubbers now until the cup final. Really, so can you replicate that real pressure? You know, when you're actually playing for points. And I was watching. I've gone through a phase of watching Under the Kosh podcast and going through, obviously, you know, filling in my time by watching all these different podcasts. And there was one with a player called Bradley Orr. It was on. I don't know if anyone's seen it. He's from Liverpool. He started out on the books of Everton, then he went up to Newcastle under Kenny Dalglish. And he said he was ripping it up in the reserves, and he thought he was never going to get into the first team, so he thought he was going to go, and he got an offer from Bristol City, and he said he thought in his mind he was going to go and rip it up at Bristol City because it was a step down, and he was bossing games in the reserve league. Then obviously when it came to pass and he went to go and play, he was nowhere near it, because these players are they're all used to playing for points, and it doesn't matter how many reserve games you play, it's not the same pressure, it's not you're the same intensity. So I think, yeah, again, he's got to be thrown in to really sort of see the best of him, to give him the sort of to replicate that sort of that pressurized situation where you're going to learn really. But he's got Idah in front of him, so I don't know. All he can do is just mix and match and put him in and just give him as much time as he can. There's a player there for sure, you know. And I think you look at you know the players from the League of Ireland that have done really well in British football over the years. I was reading the other day, I didn't realise we almost signed Seamus Coleman. Pardon?
I think we had him in trial. And,
we didn't deem him good enough.
Yeah.
Shea Given as well. You know, these players that we've been sort of missed out from the League of Ireland. The Hunt brothers as well. That I don't know if they were ever on our books or whatever, or we ever looked at them, but they had great careers in English football as well, and scored. I can't remember. Was it Noel Hunt that scored? That was the prolific striker.
Yeah. He was up at Dundee United and Dunfermline, I think. Then he went down to Reading. Played right, Reading. Yeah. Hull City. You're right, but you've not mentioned the main one, Nigel Melly. You don't remember him?
No, I don't. No.
He sounds like a Viz character, but he played with.
That was a man on the telly, wasn't it?
Nigel Melly. He had the dodgiest moustache ever. If you're tuning in, Nigel, get in touch. We'd love to get you on This Is Acsom and hear your story. Shea Given's a big one. I always go back to him. And people will be sick of it. There's the Shea Given klaxon for me, because I think the one thing Tommy Burns lacked during his time at Celtic was a goalie. I really do. And the big hope at that time was Stuart Kerr, wasn't it? Stuart Kerr was coming through, really bad back injury and all that kind of stuff. But I just don't think we had a decent goalie. You had to, Pat Bonner had been freed when Tommy came in. And Tommy was taking him to Kilmarnock. That's what was happening. And he'd been freed. He played in the 94 World Cup as a free agent. And then Tommy Burns got the Celtic job and then took him back to Celtic. And he ended up playing in the Scottish Cup final that season against Airdrie because Marsh obviously wasn't up to the task. Gordon Marshall, Big Holmesy, as he gets called, don't ask why. But yeah, I mean, Shea Given was the guy for me that might have changed everything for Tommy, but it wasn't to be. Simon Donnelly reckons Stuart Kerr was a better goalie at that period of their development. But no, you're spot on. I just think I go back to the interview that Brendan did after we wrapped up the league, and he was talking about, giving some game time. Given some game time, and he said, some of these guys have to be tested away from home as well as playing in front of 60,000 at Celtic Park. I mean, that wouldn't be easy for mere mortals like us, but he's saying, that's a wee bit easier. The bigger test is going away and performing away from home. So he needs to check if players are capable of doing that. That's why I'm thinking maybe Johnny will get a run. Lawrence, are you going to stick with Ian? Do you think Idah's going to get a start tomorrow night?
I think we'll start with Idah, but I think we'll see Kenny. It'll probably inform our transfer strategy. How I expect Kenny to get some minutes the last two games, and if Brendan sees enough in him, he might not go out for a striker. He might say, right, let's just stick with me Idah through the middle and the backups of Idah and Kenny. So, because it's easier to find wingers, we seem to be pretty good at that. So yeah, I'd expect to see him get some minutes. I wouldn't start him though over Idah. You still want to get the points. I know the league's won, but you still want the points, don't you?
Absolutely, you do. Yeah. I'm bringing this up. I was
going to say, though, see when Given was there, was Brad Friedel also on trial at the same time?
He was on trial, yeah. He was.
He did take up that option.
I know. And then he went on to play until he was like 42 years of age at a very, very high level. I'm going to try and prove that Nigel Melly actually was at Celtic. I'm going to try and bring a picture of him up for the benefit of this particular discussion, because it's just one of the names that disappears into the folklore of Celtic. Kevin Graham Poet, you're in on the show. Gordon Holmes, Krypton Factor. I remember him, but that's not why.
Gordon Burns, wasn't it? Gordon Holmes.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Oh, dear me. That Krypton Factor, the assault course. No, it wasn't anything to do with the Krypton Factor, Kev. It was something a wee bit more sinister than that. And we are going to be talking about something a wee bit more sinister as well, in that there has been a shambolic development in terms of Celtic's title party. And you wrote about it this morning, Liam. We're calling it the title party killjoys, because there's no way you can accidentally do what's happened and line up an orange walk on the same day that Celtic get given the trophy. Everybody knows that Celtic would be playing at home on the last day of the season. That's a given. It's not like you're looking, we didn't know what the fixtures were going to be. Celtic win the league, they get the trophy on the last day of the season at home. You know that, right? So anyone who's saying that, this would have been signed off long in advance, it's just shocking planning, Liam. What's your take on it?
Doesn't matter how long ago it was signed off. It shouldn't be happening in the first place, because these parades have got no place in 21st century society. End of story.
No, I mean, right.
They were out of date 300 years ago, right? It's just the thing that annoys me, right, about all of this is the council have said time and time again, it cost like £100,000, which we know it didn't. Right, so it cost £100,000 last year to have the title party for Celtic, whatever. No, it didn't. Right, but even if it did, how much should it cost to have police, to have cleanup, to have stewarding, to have just dealing with the general crime and disorder that goes around every Orange Walk, and there is hundreds of them every year. Ban them, and then we'll talk about whether or not Celtic should have a title party. Until then, they have no leg to stand on whatsoever, as far as I'm concerned.
No, you're right. And the thing with this title party, we've seen it coming in. We didn't see the fact that there was going to be an orange walk scheduled for the same day. But we've seen this issue coming. And we spoke about it weeks and weeks ago. And here we are, a matter of days before it takes place. And there's a bit of concern about it, Ian. You know, you're thinking, oh no, you just hope nothing kicks off. You hope that there's no any hangers-on from the morning parade that stick around in the Merchant City for bother. Because what will happen, of course, is that, again, you'll get the same old argument, two cheeks of the same backside. It's all the, Celtic and Rangers problem and all this kind of stuff. And you get drawn into it. We just want to celebrate our title win, Ian, yet we're getting drawn into this drama.
Yeah, it reminds me, back in 2010, my wife and I just had our first child, and my mother-in-law came over from New Zealand to help out, and she'd never been to Scotland before. She's from Kent originally, and so anyway, we were sort of taking her out and about and showing her the various different sites of Scotland. And this one particular day, we took her out to the necropolis in Glasgow, and it was after an orange walk had been on. This is probably about 2 hours after it had finished, and we were kind of, I can't remember the name of the pub as you sort of go down towards the necropolis. If someone can help me out with the name of that. But anyway, so we were going down there. There was a lot of buses parked up, and honestly, it was like the people were auditioning for the scene in the Star Wars, the bar scene in the Star Wars movie. I can't remember which one it was. There was about 150 people and about 3 teeth between them, and they were all hammered. It wasn't a pretty sight, and they were arguing amongst each other and fighting each other. And this is the impression of my mother-in-law is sort of one of our first impressions of Scotland, and so that is a concern. You've got alcohol plays a massive part in it, so obviously there's going to be a lot of alcohol partaken, I'm sure, with our fans as well. So that could end up being a bit of a tinderbox situation, but hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully it passes off, and everyone can just sort of they do their thing. I don't like it myself. I think it's antiquated, as you say, Liam. But they've got legally they've got the right to do it, so they'll be doing their bit. But we've also got our right to celebrate our title win. So. We all are allowed to exist in the same orbit and do our thing. So hopefully, as I say, I'm sure there will be the odd thing. That's just what happens when alcohol's involved. But I think we just all we can do is to sort of take care of our side of things and celebrate properly, as we always do.
I think the way it's lined up isn't ideal, Lawrence, because it hasn't been signed off by anyone. It's just basically Celtic fans saying, we're going to do this. We're going to meet up and we're going to celebrate the title win, which is their right, as Ian quite rightly says. But there's been no organisation from Glasgow City Council. There will be no organised policing in terms of an event that's been signed off at that level, because it will just be on an ad hoc basis, on a reactive basis. And, that's where there's a recipe for disorder in any walk of life, because it's not organised. Yet, weeks and weeks ago, months ago, we spoke about organise something. We even spoke about what else could you do? Could you do it up at Celtic Park? Could you turn it into a massive fan zone? We spoke about all of that, Lawrence. JP pitched in by saying, Glasgow Green would be a great venue for that kind of thing. Yet here we are, number of days before it, Lawrence, and there is a potential for carnage, and that's going to put a lot of people off going in the first place, and that's wrong as well.
Listen, whoever signed it off, maybe they made a genuine mistake, but surely they've had time to reflect and go, actually, maybe on the same day as to get it, maybe we should change the plans. Maybe this isn't too good an idea. We'll just move them a day. The fact that they've not, they must think, yeah, they can police it. There won't be any trouble, because they'll stand back letting it happen on the same day. At some point, you've got to say, look, we need to move one of these. Will we move the 60,000 Celtic fans, or will we move the Orange Walk? So, yeah, the authorities, as much as we'll say, Celtic isn't an official party in that, they know what's happening. So they should have stepped in and moved the parade to another day. I mean, is this the VE parade, which the official one was another week? You're like, turning up late for the war. But you know, it's. I said, you hope it goes.
How many shipyard banners are going to be there? That's what I want to know.
The
You hope it goes off
interesting
without
thing,
any trouble.
did anybody
You know,
ever watch The Walking Dead? Did anybody ever tap into that? I know there's been about 300 series, right? But they called them walkers. They called the Walking Dead walkers. The zombies were called walkers. And obviously, we're going to have loads of orange walkers at the weekend. Right, here we go. There's a team group, right? And that was the last season you'll ever see Celtic without a sponsor on the jersey that we wear in games. Look at that for a squad. Look at that for a squad. How many do you
top,
recognise? It's a brilliant tracky top. It was kind of half shell suit, half, 80s tracky. Look at the guys wearing it. Look at Jimmy Steele, Tommy Craig, Neely Mockin, Liam Brady in the front, Mick Martin, Brian Scott. Absolutely tremendous. But if you go to the back row and you've got three goalies, I'm going to ask you guys, everybody knows that that's Pat Bourne in the middle and Gordon Marshall to his left as you look at the picture. Can anybody name the guy to the right? The other goalie? Anybody name him?
No.
He ended up on the telly. It was Family Fortunes he was on. Seriously. He was on Family Fortunes. His name's Mark McLean. If you're tuning in, Mark, on you come. We might get you on a double header with Nigel Melly, who's standing next to you. There you go. There's Big Nige standing next to Mark McLean and Steve McCahill, who we signed from Dumbarton, I think. Then we've got Tony Mowbray and Tommy Boyd. Look at that for a squad, though, guys. What would your starting 11 be? I'll ask you first, Liam. What would your starting 11 be in that team? You've got Martin Hayes, top left. Gary Gillespie barely kicked a ball for us. The young hooks in that team were Matt McNally, Stevie Fulton. Is Jerry Craney still there, or has he been offloaded? Jerry Craney, front row. Yeah, you had a few youngsters coming through. What would your team be?
Well, you'd have obviously Packy Bonner in goals. I'm struggling here, to be honest, because I'd only just started watching Celtic at that point, and I don't really remember how the team lined up.
It was a traditional 4-4-2, right? So Bonner would be the goalie, no doubt about it. I think Marshall was brought in to replace him, but Bonner would be the goalkeeper. You'd probably be reluctant to play Gillespie because he was so injury prone, but in his day he was a European Cup winner. Tony Mowbray would be your other centre half, probably. My left back would be Dufcek. I thought he was a really decent player. And my right back, I would go with Tommy Boyd. I don't know if he preferred playing right back, but I'd play Tommy Boyd at right back. Your midfield would be pretty strong, wouldn't it? Because you'd have Paul McStay, John Collins. You would maybe have who else in the midfield? Peter Grant to win the ball.
Or Galloway.
Mikey Galloway would give you a bit of steel.
Brian O'Neill.
O'Neill was a decent talent coming through, but then you're not really playing many wingers then, are you? So you could maybe play Grant and McStay in the middle. Collins could push over to the left. Maybe we Joe Miller pushing over to the right. And then you're picking two strikers. And look at the strikers we've got available to us, right? So you've got Tommy Coyne. I can see Tommy in there. You've got Jerry Britton. He never played. Jerry Craney and Charlie Nicholas. So who do you play up top then? Obviously, Martin Hayes isn't getting a game because he was rotten. Right, I'm probably going to go for Charlie Nicholas. Oh, wait a minute, that's actually hard because Craney was a goal scorer. I would go with Nicholas and Craney, or maybe change Nicholas and Coyne. You would maybe change them about and play them alongside Craney because Craney had all the running. That's not a bad starting 11, guys, is it? Not a bad starting 11. Yet we won nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'm not even giving Chris Morris a game. I've just noticed Chris Morris.
Yeah, no, yeah. Stevie Fulton was decent as well.
He was good in the left. He was. Yeah, very good. Let us know in the comments. I can also see Billy Dolan, bottom left, I think. Wee Eddie, Brian McLaughlin, bottom right. Mark Donaghy standing next to Jerry Britton. And who, right, guys, can you tell me who's standing in between Mark Donaghy and Barry Smith in the middle row, just below Gillespie and Marshall? Do you know who that is?
McStay.
It is. It's the youngest McStay brother. I think he ended up on the bench once against St Johnstone, but he never ever got a game. Yeah, that was the days where we used to have team groups up at Celtic Park rather than Lennoxtown. Did anybody see the video footage of Barrowfield? Did you see it? A guy went down with his drone. Go and check it out. Go and check it out. I think I shared it on the group. Anyway, this chap goes down with his drone down to Barrowfield, and he's been down before, and he's chatting away to the wee guy at the gate. Did you watch it, Lawrence?
No, I've not seen it. No,
It's worth watching. You can see the development of the complex down there. It's a big bit of land beyond the main training pitch.
So what are they going to do with? Are they going to run two facilities long term? Does that, is it a long term plan to move back to Barrowfield? Because it's got the indoor pitch, which Brendan's always wanted.
Yeah,
Lennoxtown doesn't have that. They won't build two indoor pitches. So.
Lawrence, I pitched this about a month ago. I said, are we moving from Lennoxtown lock, stock and barrel down to Barrowfield, right? Because obviously the official line is this is where the women's team is going to be based. That's where they're going to play. This is where the young team are going to play. But as you say, there's indoor pitches. And honestly, when you see it, there's like three full-size pitches. So you've got your old original one behind the social club. And then in fact, there might be two there. And then you come further back and there's two other pitches side by side, one they're still working on. I shared it in the group chat. Go and check it out. It's actually out on YouTube. The guy takes quite a bit of time. I think it's a 15-20 minute video, flies his drone all around it, has a wee chat with the guy at the gate who's brand new. But there's somebody within there, there's some kind of project manager in there, doesn't like the guy flying his drone, and he comes out, or previously has come out and given them a hard time. But go and check it out. Maybe it is, Lawrence, maybe the long-term plan is to move it full-time there.
You want to run two facilities, surely. I think it'd be better at Barrowfield. I think they'd get to, obviously, back to the reserve games there. Hopefully the women are playing there. Hopefully get bigger crowds. So I just can't see them running Lennoxtown and Barrowfield.
Doesn't really make sense. Doesn't really make sense.
Is that why they've sort of been reticent to rename Lennoxtown Tommy Burns? After Tommy Burns, because there was a lot of that, and maybe if they switch it around, maybe they put the ladies' team up to Lennoxtown. I don't know, but I can't imagine why they would run two big facilities as well.
The thing is, well, Ian, right? I remember they did the video. They actually took Brendan Rodgers down there and interviewed him down at Barrowfield after we announced that we were going to be putting the investment down it, because it's a big investment in the complex. And he was talking about the fact that, you can see Celtic Park. So you're doing their training and you can see Celtic Park. He says, for young guys coming through, it's something to aim for. You can actually see it towering over the kind of landscape. Whereas up at Lennoxtown, I don't know, because I'm not part of the staff. I think it feels a wee bit more isolated, which was something that they wanted at the time, just to go away. But it's a wee bit more isolated, and you don't see, like in the old days, you don't see the fans. The fans used to gather and get.
It's tougher in the winter, doesn't it? They get worse weather up there than they do down at Barrowfield.
Absolutely.
Ground's frozen earlier. So, yeah, I think it'd be better for them to move long term back to Barrowfield.
Could well be. There we go. Yes, go and check it out, because it will be. And again, Ian, probably, if that was the case, Lennoxtown would maybe get sold for a housing complex, etc. Who knows? I'm just putting it out there. I don't know for sure. I've not heard anything. In that team group, there was a lot of players that never made the grade, and that's always the way. We've been talking about Johnny Kenny, and there's obviously young Sean McArdle made his debut at the weekend, which was brilliant to see. 17 years of age. Came on in midfield, showed a bit of dig. I thought after the ball had been lost, he won it back. Didn't get much time actually to make an impression, but he had made 40 odd appearances for the B team in the UEFA Youth League as well. Half a dozen appearances in there. So 17-year-old, great to see him introduced. I was looking, Liam, at the other guys that have made the breakthrough this season. So Johnny Kenny's already been mentioned, and his route has been slightly different. Obviously, we signed him from Sligo Rovers. In a 6-figure deal, I think it was. So he's made 7 appearances. He's 21. We're talking about guys at the age of 21 as being young guys, Arnie Engels just turned 21. Yeah, he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders when we're talking about him. Dane Murray, 21 years of age. He's made 2 appearances, one, of course, being against Aston Villa, but he's injured again, unfortunately. You hope that's not going to be a feature of his Celtic career. And there's been 3 youngsters who have made 1 appearance this season. We've got Jude Bonner, age 19, Francis Turley, age 19, and Daniel Cummins, age 19. But we know he's signed for West Ham. He's signed a pre-contract and he'll be leaving the football club. So from the names I've mentioned, Murray and Cummins are not going to be available. McArdle, Bonner and Turley are. And of course, we've already spoken about Johnny Kenny. Does any of the young guys get game time? Is this the time to do it, Liam? If not, when is?
Again, I think places on the bench, probably. If the result is looking secure, we can bring them on. But I don't think it would be all of them. I think you might see a staggered approach. Maybe one or two of them get a game tomorrow, and then another couple get a game on Saturday. It's all academic because none of them are going to feature in the cup final anyway. I mean, let's be realistic about it. But no, it's unfortunate that we are really missing not having a reserve league. Between the lack of youth development and the lack of being able to keep guys who are not first team players match sharp, it really is the B team just doesn't cut it. And I think Colin mentioned last week on the show that the word is that the B team will not be playing in the West of Scotland League next season.
Yeah.
So we need to find an alternative for that. Like I said before, we should, a few months ago we should have bought Inverness Cali. I think that would have been a perfect way to do it. We could still possibly take over a team of that size, maybe in League One or the Championship, and run that as a B team. That would probably be the best way to do it.
You know the thing, right? We have spoken long and hard about this, Liam. I have come to realise there will never be a reserve league as it was back in the day. When we started doing the live events, one of the first guests we ever had back in the day at McHughes was Brian McClare, Chalky. And he had obviously worked for years and years in the academy under Alex Ferguson. And he had great ideas, absolutely brilliant ideas as to what he would do with a Scottish football team and with the reserve league. And, because he had good ideas, that's probably why he didn't last at the SFA. Because, the Blazers did not want anybody coming in with creativity. Brian McClare came in and he would have ripped it up. But it came down to money, Ian. It came down to money. So teams at that time, and I remember it, teams were loathed to ring fence a 5-figure sum every season to have a reserve team in the reserve league. And that's why it fell to bits. And it will never come back because you'll never get more than, let's say, Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen, Hibs, Hearts and Dundee United, who would actually be able to say, right, we'll give you that. This is it. We're going to ring fence that money and we'll have a league. That's only half a dozen teams. You need a dozen teams for a proper league, don't you? So I don't think it'll ever happen. So I think it'll be a combination of teams who have a kind of partnership with Celtic where you loan players out. They're relaxing the rules with dual ownership, Liam. I like that idea. You've looked at teams this year who have had financial trouble. Hamilton Accies, Dumbarton, Inverness Cali. Scottish football teams are struggling. Albion Rovers, they've dropped out the league and they've got financial issues. Why not? Why not allow Celtic to buy one of these teams? It's a nursery team. It can get promoted to a point and we can play players in a competitive kind of league. Sorry, Lawrence, you were going to say?
I was going to say, listen, we've got a women's team and probably such an extensive youth development because UEFA prescribed it, said you've got to have it. That's probably the way the reserves come back if UEFA come out and say, look, you've got to invest in the reserve team. Because I don't think Scottish football, the SFA, will take the lead on it and make it. Like they won't bring in financial fair play. Not as if Scottish teams haven't been affected. Notable teams going bust, like Gretna, and obviously Rangers. You've got Accies in trouble. You've got Inverness Cali in trouble. You've got Hearts, obviously, their fans rallied round and managed to get their team out of administration and avoided that ignominy of liquidation. But what would it take for the SFA to step in and say, look, we need some financial play, we need some long-term planning, the reserve league needs to be part of this. If they want to look back to when Scottish football was successful, the reserve league was there. 60s, 70s, 80s. And you talk to players, they said it was a great coming back from injury, or, getting in, passing knowledge on to young boys that were coming through as well. Mm-hmm. Great environment. You think the SFA would legislate for it. But probably not. But it's something they should be doing.
Well, why not? If we're going to moan about the development of young players, Lawrence, then do something about it. We know that Brian McClare has got views on it. John Collins has spoken about it. Jackie McNamara has spoken about it. There's a round table right there there's a think tank right there, and that's just people that I'm aware of because they've got a Celtic state of mind, and I've spoken to them. But there's a lot of good thinkers in the Scottish game. Unfortunately, they get closed down and shut down pretty quickly. And we're in that scenario now where Brendan Rodgers has continually said when asked, Ian, this is my bread and butter, developing young footballers. Every single club that I've been at, I've developed young footballers. And if there's one that's ready to play my first team, he'll play. But he's not playing them. And this is what I'm saying here. So Dane Murray, 2 appearances. Jude Bonner, Francis Turley, Daniel Cummins and Sean McArdle, 1 appearance. Johnny Kenny, a player who we purchased, 7 appearances. These guys are not playing. And if they're the pick of the bunch, does that mean that we're not developing guys who are good enough for Brendan? And that's a whole other issue, isn't it? Because that means the youth development situation that we have at the moment is broken and it's not working. Because the guys that have been presented to Brendan, he doesn't think are good enough.
Well, Brendan started out Chelsea's youth players, didn't he? Was that his first job? Yeah. And if you look as well, that sort of coincided with, maybe that's why he's particularly keen to develop youth if he can, because Mourinho was a checkbook manager. So I can't remember many players that maybe came through the ranks when Mourinho was in charge at Chelsea. So you've got obviously the traditional clubs like the likes of Manchester United, who always have, Ferguson was always at pains to sort of say that a club like Manchester United are obligated to bring young players through, but they probably went around and hoovered up. In fact, I was listening to something the other day, and it was anyway. It was, I think it was Harrison, the reserve manager, and so the youth team manager at Manchester United, and he was there before Ferguson. And Ferguson kept him on, but he said he wasn't happy with the amount of players that were coming through. So Harrison said, "Look, go and get me better players." Was it on here? Maybe it was on here. I've watched something recently, and it was talking about that. So then Ferguson obviously committed to going and getting more scouts. Cast the net wider and going and getting these players. So you'd think that a club like Celtic in Scotland will already be doing that. So we should have a fair amount of decent talent, but. I don't know. Who knows what goes on backstage? As I say, I imagine with Brendan Rodgers starting his career out, developing youth, that is something close to his heart, and he'd be quite keen to do it. So, maybe it's another thing to add to the football doctor's roster.
The football doctor, the seldom seen doctor, seen doctor. Ian, absolutely. There's a whole show in that. But you're right. Manchester United started spreading the net wide, and they were getting talent like in the 80s, bringing in guys like even Mark Hughes shared the room with Drew McBride, who was Tony McBride's wee brother from Castle Milk. Drew went down to Manchester. They shared the room, so they were looking up at Scotland for talent as well as closer to home, and obviously for generations after that they had swathes and swathes of young players coming through. So it's something Celtic need to do, because obviously with regards to where we are in the food chain, we need to develop footballers, and we're not doing it to the same degree that we should be, because the examples I always use at the moment are Callum McGregor, of course, James Forrest, the returning Kieran Tierney and Tony Ralston. Beyond that, Tony Ralston, 26 years of age, where's your 23-year-olds? Where's your 21-year-olds? Where's your 18-year-olds? They're not there at the moment, and it's something that we need to put right. Good wee video, says Sonny Boy. Yeah, go and check it out. I'm not sure what the user's name is, but you'll be able to find it. And it's Barrafield, and it's a drone, and the guy talks us through it. He walks right down the pathway to the main entrance as well. Jungle Lion comes in to say, but cynical, but maybe, just maybe, Glasgow City Council are hoping it all kicks off on Saturday afternoon to beat Celtic with, again, it would not surprise me. I don't think it's cynical. I think it's reading between the lines. I'm going to throw this one over to you, Lawrence. I've seen on the socials quite a lot of people talking about the passing of a great Celtic fan who seems to have been well known throughout many supporters' buses. I didn't know him myself, but it's someone that you were aware of. And he passed away, sadly, and suddenly over the last few days, didn't he?
Yeah, Big John Gilmartin. I think he's in the CSC. Drove a few Celtic buses as well. If you look on Facebook, there's a fundraiser for the family. I think Big Eric Kilty and that's sharing it there. So, yeah, condolences to his family. Untimely passing. So, if you can look up Facebook, I'll try and get a link Paul John, and maybe push out the socials, maybe get some money raised for the family.
I think we'll do that. We'll also add the link to the bottom of this video, and we'll add it to the videos all week, actually. I'm just going to do a wee round table here and ask you for your starting 11 for tomorrow night at Pittodrie. Starting with yourself, Liam Carrigan. How do we start against the Dons? Is it a dress rehearsal or an opportunity to give some of the youth players a chance?
Right. Well, I think we know Sinisalo's starting goal, right? So Sinisalo in goal. Tony Ralston's going to be the right back. Centre backs, I would go with Trusty and Scales. Left back is Taylor. Midfield, I wonder, could you possibly rest one of Engels or Hatate and maybe give the boy McArdle a start?
Imagine that 17-year-old going up to Pittodrie. That's what you need.
Yeah, and if you wanted to be really ambitious, you could also put Luke McCowan in there as well. Drop Engels and Hatate out and put McCowan, McArdle and McGregor in as your midfield three. Then up front, it's going to be Forrest, Idah and Maeda.
And Forrest to get his goal with one of his bum cheeks, Liam. Not sure which one.
Hopefully.
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope so. The last time we were up there, of course, Rio Hatate scored a decisive goal. Ian, would you do as Liam does and maybe mix up the midfield a bit?
I think it would, yeah. As I say, it's we do want to get as many points as we can, but if we drop points, it's not the worst thing in the world. If we do sort of slot McArdle in at some point, if it's from the start, all good and well. If it's not, at some point during the game, Bernardo again. He's not injured, is he?
No, he's fit and ready to go.
Yeah, I love Bernardo, so I'd like to see him get some time as well. But yeah, that's not a bad shout from Liam. I quite like that lineup really. Maybe with one or two exceptions in the midfield.
Yeah, I mean, I don't tend to watch Rangers games, but I was out the garden at the weekend trying to go on the kind of Nosferatu scale, trying to get a wee bit of colour in my skin, and I did switch on the Rangers Aberdeen game, and I'll tell you this: Aberdeen were absolutely rotten. Like seriously. They were dreadful, really, really poor, Lon. So I think you might have leeway. You might have a bit of leeway to bring in some of the players either who haven't had much game time recently, like Bernardo, McCowan, etc., or some of these young guys that we've already mentioned. How would you line up, Lawrence, any differently from Liam?
So Sinisalo, I'd play Tony Ralston, Greg Taylor, Rocky and Trusty. Bernardo in the middle.
Play Trusty on his favoured side, Yep.
Bernardo is your holding midfielder. Probably play McCowan and Hatate. Let's start Jamesy. He needs a goal. Maeda and Big Adam up front.
Big Idah. Well, we'll see how it goes, but thanks for all your thoughts. It's been absolutely brilliant as always. We've spoken about Lennoxtown. We've spoken about Adam Idah, Nigel Melly. Yesterday we were talking about Baron Greenback. Anything goes on a Celtic State of Mind. We didn't quite get to the Dermot Desmond article written by Steve McGowan. Very good article. I think we'll probably touch on that tomorrow because it's something that deserves a wee bit of time. We talk about Dermot Desmond being either the absentee landlord or Celtic mastermind, and we'll get everybody's thoughts on that tomorrow. Thanks everybody for getting involved in the chat. As Lon says, we will be sharing the link for the fundraiser for John Gilmartin underneath this video. I'm away to Glasgow to record this week's edition of This Is Acsom. If you want to come to one of our live events, the next one's at the end of the month on the night of the Champions League final at Gracie's, and the link is under the video. Thanks everybody for getting involved, and thank you to Liam, Lawrence and Ian for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.